Hi students, this video is about how to incorporate your sources, and it is specifically for my English 302 business writing class. So you should have already watched the finding and citing sources. You should have gotten your sources. You should have already looked at the prompt and the samples and things like that. You should also have watched several of the videos about how to incorporate visuals. I'm still going to give you a couple little tips and a little bit of review on what you probably should have or did learn in first year composition. So hopefully that's helpful to you. But this is something that I am looking for specifically in your projects because it's on the rubric. How are you incorporating the research that you have done? This is important because we don't want it to sound like a book report or just a report on what you've already read. We want your ideas to be the focus, and then you're bringing in your sources in order to support the things that you are saying. That's the key here. We want your voice at the forefront, and then you're bringing in that support. So this is how you do it. All right, so let me go into a slideshow that I use for my other classes. The whole point of using sources in your work is to provide credibility, establish yourself as part of the conversation surrounding the work that others are doing and the work that you are doing. If you are needing to create more space, more objectivity, that can be a good way of doing that as well. So there are three ways that you can use your sources in your writing. You can either paraphrase, summarize, or direct quote. If you paraphrase, you are taking a passage from the material, putting it in your own words, and you still need to use internal citations. So make sure that you are doing that. Summary is pretty much the same thing. You still need to cite it. It's still in your own words. However, it is usually like a larger body of work that you are then condensing. Paraphrasing is like a smaller piece. So like you're summarizing a whole book or a whole study. So the reason this is important is a lot of students don't generally know how to do summary or paraphrase. They usually do a lot of direct quoting, and they're only direct quoting from the first page of their source because they're like, oh, I found a quote that works, whatever. I don't want to read the rest of the source. I don't want to figure any of this out. So this is telling us as teachers that our students aren't really making full use of their research. You have to understand your sources in order to paraphrase or summarize them. So let your voice be heard. Try not to quote if you can help it, but especially if you're quoting research or statistics, quoting's probably the way to go. So again, putting it in your own words, if that would make it unclear or confusing, then you want to keep it a direct quote, especially if it's statistical information, keep that a direct quote. So first you need to read your texts thoroughly and make sure you understand what they're saying, and then represent the text in a way that the author would want it to be used. So one thing you can do is use some of these templates in your writing. This comes from the They Say, I Say book. That can be really, really helpful. And what these templates do, go over how to set up the ways that we bring in our sources. The idea here overall is to be a person who uses the sandwich method. So even in business writing, I want you to do what's called the sandwich method. So you're going to have the top bread slice, which is introducing the source. Then you're going to have the meat, the filling, and then explaining the idea and why it matters to your topic. So a lot of times when students are writing proposals or reports, they will just throw in information from their sources and then move on. And it's like, whoa, where did this come from? You need to contextualize it. You need to introduce it. And then when you have the quotation, you need to explain it and then tie it back into your overall proposal or idea or whatever you're doing. Okay, the templates that I will provide to you do help you to do that, but that's the most important thing. We want you to contextualize things using the sandwich method, and we want your voice to be heard. Okay, so that is the main thing here. I will post the rest of this PowerPoint and the rest of the templates, but that's the real main takeaway, is that sandwich method. And let's see, meta commentary can be helpful as well, because you can focus in on what you're trying to say. If you want to pause, you can read all of that. So there are 3 things that you can do in order to incorporate your sources. We've got the sandwich method. We've got some of those templates to say like why things matter and how to contextualize it. And then the meta commentary can be helpful. Then there's some thoughts on plagiarism. I think you guys understand that. If you're not saying where you're getting ideas, that is plagiarism. It's a type of non-attribution. So you want to make sure that you are citing your sources properly, even when you are paraphrasing or summarizing. You can pause to read that if you'd like. And I am going to move on from the patch writing because I think you guys are okay with that. I want to go back to the sandwich method here. So again, introduce the source, explain the source, and say why it matters. Using the sandwich method also applies to visuals. So in this example, in a scholarly journal article, it says, you know, figure 1, this flowchart demonstrates the study selection results. A total of 784 records were identified, and it talks about what this flowchart is showing. Okay, this is fine. And then it says table 1 provides a partial overview, and then here it is, and it kind of explains what's in the table. That's a good top bun and filling, but we are missing where it connects to the overall idea. And the reason why it does this in this article is it's just giving you the results. It's going to explain the results down in the discussion. Okay, now for you, you are not writing something like this. Okay, you are interpreting this data. So when you have a table like this, figure 2, you're going to contextualize it. You need to introduce the visual. You need to explain the visual, and then you need to tie the visual into your overall idea. So same with direct quotes, same with your other research. You are using the sandwich method to incorporate and interpret your visuals. If you see visuals used like this in your scholarly articles, the reason they're doing that is because the explanation is elsewhere. You are not writing a scholarly journal article for this class, okay? So what I want to see is, instead of just, dropping in these things, you're going to have this beginning here where you contextualize it. Then we're going to have the explanation. Then we're going to have the visual, and then I want you to put that bun in there, the last part of the bread slice. I want why this matters to your report, to what you're writing, okay? So you're tying this into your overall purpose, not moving on to the next thing, okay? So if you look visually at your piece of writing and you see that you've ended a paragraph with a quotation, you haven't done the quotation sandwich. If you see that your visual is just kind of hanging out there, that there's no sentence explaining, introducing, and no sentence tying it into your purpose, you haven't done it right. So I want to see the sandwiches. Okay, that's going to help you the most in this project. If you want to know more about how to incorporate your sources seamlessly using these moves, the templates from this book will also help you as well. So those sources will be there for you in the learning materials, the templates, and you can pause to read these slides, or I will upload the slides as well for you. But that's really the main takeaway, is when you integrate and interpret your sources, when you integrate and interpret your visuals, I want to see them kind of set up in that sandwich method where you have your introduction and then you have the source or the visual, and then you tie it back into your purpose for writing. So I hope that's helpful for you. That's what I'm looking for, and that's what's described in the rubric for this project. If you have any questions, please, of course, as always, let me know. I'm here to answer any questions that you have.